and thank you for joining us this evening. My name is Christina Marconi, and I am the current Texas Gulf Region Cooperative Weed Management Area Coordinator, and I also work at the University of Texas Marine Science Institute at the Mission Aransas Center in the Stewardship Program, and my co-presenter, Katie Swanson, is the Stewardship Coordinator there. So before I hand it off to Katie, I wanted to address the question, what is a Brazilian pepper tree? So here we have one on this slide, and as you can see, there's a few things that stand out to you first. Those bright red berries and the bright green leaves are two really key identifiers. But the most important thing to know about this tree is that it's an invasive species. So it's native to Brazil, Argentina, and Paraguay. And although it's a perennial shrub to small tree, they can grow up to 30 feet high, as you can see in this next photo. So this is what we would consider a Brazilian pepper tree motte, which is just a group of trees. So this could only be a couple trees that have just grown very large. And this one looks like it's about the size of a two-story building, as you can see from the house behind it. And something else to note while we're talking about the characteristics of Brazilian pepper trees are that if you have reactions to poison ivy or any of those types of species, you can get a reaction from Brazilian pepper trees. So be careful before you approach it. So we can see that these trees grow very large. They also grow very fast. So in doing so, they outcompete a lot of our native species, especially our native habitats like grassland prairie habitat that we have in Mustang Island in San Jose. And that can cause a lot of environmental damage. So they're growing fast, they're outcompeting these native species for water, nutrients, and sunlight, but they can also put chemicals in the ground that inhibit growth of native species. So as you look at this photo, specifically around the trunk, that's where a motte was, a Brazilian pepper tree. You can even see the outline of it. There's very little plant diversity, and you can see on the outskirts that immediately there's growth of other native species such as coastal bluestem. So here we have a close-up view of one of these moths that was just cut down, and you just see it's very barren. Like I said before, little to no plant diversity. So that's some background information on Brazilian pepper trees. I'm going to hand it over to Katie to talk more about the CWMA.
And so now we're going to go into the background of the Texas Gulf Region Cooperative Weed Management Area and give you some background on exactly what a CWMA is, how this particular one started, and kind of some of our projects and accomplishments through the years. So what exactly is a Cooperative Weed Management Area, or a CWMA? It's a partnership of both federal, state, and local governments, along with NGOs, institutions, research facilities or universities, and then individuals from communities that manage invasive species in a defined area. So the Texas Gulf region, we focus on Brazilian pepper tree, and our defined area is basically Mustang, San Jose Island, and part of Matagorda Island as well. But again, it operates within a defined geographic area. It's majorly dependent on partnerships. There's a long-term commitment to cooperation. You have coordination across jurisdictional boundaries, so not just in Port Aransas, but in Corpus Christi, Nueces County, stuff like that. And you're able to share resources. So that's really one of the biggest advantages to a CWMA, is the ability to all these entities to focus on this one problem and bring all their resources to this problem. So the mission of the Texas Gulf Region CWMA is to address the invasive Brazilian pepper tree from Port O'Connor to Packery Channel on barrier islands across the Texas Gulf Coast. And then our goal is to prevent the introduction and control the spread of the harmful Brazilian pepper tree within the CWMA by facilitating cooperative management among all and willing land managers and owners. So at the beginning, the CWMA was established in February 2014. This photo shows kind of our first meeting. And at the very beginning, it was funded with a National Fish and Wildlife Foundation grant, a Pulling Together Initiative grant that the city of Port Aransas actually received in partnership with the Texas Forest Service, Texas A&M Forest Service, and the Lady Bird Johnson Wildflower Center. And so those were the kind of the three founding partners, and then they brought in additional partners. The additional partners today include the Mission Aransas Reserve and UTMSI, Nueces County, Coastal Bend Bays and Estuaries Program, U.S. Fish and Wildlife, Texas Parks and Wildlife. Again, so it's all these entities, including local government all the way up to federal government, research facilities, NGOs, communities as well. Here again is just kind of a map of our region and area. So we are located along the Texas Gulf Coast. Land ownership within the CWMA ranges from federal, so the Aransas Wildlife Refuge, to state, Mustang Island State Park. You have the county and city-owned properties, as well as homeowners, for example, San Jose Island, or any of the homeowners within Port Aransas or along Mustang Island. It's approximately just over 96,000 acres. And our habitats include coastal prairie and grasslands, dune habitat, as well as developed and impacted lands.
So there's three big components of the CWMA. One of those components is community outreach. So if we want to reduce the spread of this invasive species, then we need to educate the public on the harmful impacts it has. So a couple of ways that we do that are some informational handouts, as you can see on this slide. Another way we try and get the word out and reach the public is through a tree giveaway. So recently, for the past 3 years or so, as part of hurricane relief, we've partnered with Arbor Day and Texas Forest Service to give away more than 100 native trees, which is really good because people can now plant these trees, and that'll inhibit Brazilian pepper trees from growing in those areas. Another event that we've done in the past and we would love to do in the future is called Eat the Invasives, which you can see here. So this is when we bring in invasive species for the public to actually eat and engage with. So in this event, we brought in invasive hog meat, tiger shrimp, and lionfish, and then we actually seasoned it with the Brazilian pepper tree seed, which is actually red peppercorn seeds. So it was tasty, they were eating, but also learning about the invasive species and the impacts of them. And then here's another example of just some outreach material. For a recent project we created postcards and had these magnets on them as well. So people can put them up on their fridges and just be reminded of this information and how negative these species are.
And then we do community work days. These are there's multiple reasons behind community work days. One, obviously we're out there getting more acreage controlled, removing Brazilian pepper tree. We're being visible, trying to show that we're making an effort to reduce the Brazilian pepper tree, but we're also bringing community members in to show them how to actually remove Brazilian pepper trees. So they can learn at these community work days and then go home and actually remove the Brazilian pepper trees from their own properties or their neighbors' properties, stuff like that. And again, during these community work days, we bring all of our resources together. So like Texas Parks and Wildlife might be bringing crew members, trucks and trailers. MSI can bring a trailer. The county will bring trailer crews, same with the city and stuff like that. And then here's just another work day we did where we wanted to also convey the importance of not just removing your invasive species, but making sure you're putting back native species in their place. So if I take out a Brazilian pepper tree, I'm not just putting in a non-native species, but putting in a native tree in its place. And so that's what we did at this community work day. We actually took out a Brazilian pepper tree, and then put a native plant back in its place. And then the third final kind of component of the CWMA is contractual work. So sometimes you really just want to get some acres that it's impossible to do in these community work days. So we actually pay these contractors to do large areas of removal. We've done a number of different methods. We've done hand cutting with saws or in chainsaws. We've had a mulcher go out there. So basically a giant mulcher on a tractor, and they've cleared 13 acres in a matter of a couple days. And then we also have contractors that will go out there and just do foliar application or spray herbicide on the leaves. But again, this allows us to get larger tracts of land, usually on public land, controlled, Brazilian pepper tree controlled on these larger tracts of land. And then we did in 2016, we started doing citywide inventory. So prior to the establishment of the CWMA, the Texas Forest Service did assessment in 2009, and they estimated that there was about 50 acres of Brazilian pepper tree around Port Aransas. By 2016, we went out and did a kind of a on the boots on the ground inventory where we actually drove up and down every street and wrote on maps where we saw Brazilian pepper tree. And we found that there was over 113 acres of Brazilian pepper tree. So in just those 7 years, we more than doubled our acreage of Brazilian pepper tree within the city of Port Aransas limits. In 2017, we had Hurricane Harvey. We do think that the hurricane did have some impact to Brazilian pepper tree. A lot of people saw the damaged trees and saw that as an opportunity to have the trees removed. The storm did do damage and killed some, but then also it did disturb some areas that allowed Brazilian pepper trees to regrow. So overall, we're not exactly sure if Harvey had a positive or negative impact. We think it may have been positive, but we're not sure. And in 2021, we're looking at different avenues to continue this citywide inventory and see where we are today. Are our efforts making any progress? Are we reducing the Brazilian pepper tree in this city? Are we staying pretty even? Or are we, do we need to rev up our efforts and try to reduce it even more? So we're trying to get actually do some GIS work, some drone imagery, where a computer program can go out and identify the Brazilian pepper tree for us.
So a current project that we have going on, and we're actually wrapping up, is called the Brazilian Pepper Tree Replacement Program for Port Aransas homeowners. So this was a pilot project funded by Texas Parks and Wildlife Department through Coastal Bend Bays and Estuaries program, where we essentially removed Brazilian pepper tree from private homeowners' land and gave them a free replacement native tree instead. So we would give them a live oak, a desert willow, or a cedar elm just to replace where that area was. And then some of the marketing and outreach we did was, like I said before, these postcards with the magnets. We also posted on social media, on the local trash bill, and just various other forms to try and get the word out. And we actually received a lot of great feedback, and a lot of people signed up. So once we got the program going, we hired contractors. And for this specifically, we used ACE. And ACE would go out and they would remove the trees and also plant the new trees. And then we had some staff from the University of Texas Marine Science Institute, pictured here on this slide, deliver some of those trees. And here you can see they were 30-gallon, pretty large trees. So hopefully they'll grow pretty big and replace that area sufficiently where Brazilian pepper trees used to be. So here's an example of a property that was probably about 3/4 of the way covered in their backyard. As you can see on that top photo by the pool, it's just littered with Brazilian pepper trees. And then they also had it on the roadside next to their fence, actually up into the wires. So after our crews came in and after they completed the program, you can see that backyard where those stairs are. It's just completely cleared out. It's hard to see from this image, but they also planted one of the trees back there. And then you can see that they actually got that tree that was in the wires out front too. So we're really happy about this. And this is just one example. Overall, we had 10 days of work. They completed 32 properties within those 10 days, and 17 trees were given away. And then approximately 250 Brazilian pepper trees, which were removed, which we are very, very happy about. As you can see from this map, we covered all ranges of Port Aransas. And these are just where various houses were. We actually have a lot of properties that are still very much interested in this program. So we're hoping to continue that.
So one of the upcoming projects we have in the CWMA is a project on Beach Street in Port Aransas. So Beach Street apartments are owned by the university. It's actually graduate student housing. And in between the apartment building, which is that white structure in the photo, and the track is UTMSI owned property. And it is basically not covered, but there is some very dense mottes of Brazilian pepper tree. And so we're looking to actually remove that Brazilian pepper tree. Hopefully it should start this spring in a month or two. And we're actually not just going to leave the material there, which we've done in the past with some other contractual work. We're going to have that material hauled off. And then next fall, we're hoping to plant about 20,000 grass plugs and maybe throw some seed on the ground. And so we're excited because this is the first project that we're actually doing a full restoration of removing the invasive and bringing in the native replacements. And we're going to see if that helps with the need for retreatments of the area and kind of see if we can get that area back to some native healthy dune habitat. So since 2014, the CWMA has racked up some numbers. So some of our accomplishments from 2014 to 2021, we have done well over 200 hours of outreach to individuals within the Port Aransas community, but also outside of the community as well. We have produced thousands and thousands of outreach material and handed them out at the various festivals, delivered them to homeowners through mail, through on the ground, boots on the ground. We've had over 800 plus community workday hours. So those were the events where we had the community members come in and help us remove the Brazilian pepper tree from various properties within the CWMA boundary. We're really proud of this number. So we have over 5,700 acres of native habitat that is now under improved management. And so the city of Port Aransas, Mustang Island State Park, Nueces County, UTMSI, all these properties are now very aware of Brazilian pepper tree. We're looking at how to manage Brazilian pepper tree. We're trying to get rid of the Brazilian pepper tree on our properties. And so it's improved management. And then we have treated over 300 acres of Brazilian pepper tree since the beginning of the CWMA in 2014. And that number just continues to grow as we get funding, as we get opportunities, as we have more work days and contractual work. We just keep treating more and more acres of Brazilian pepper tree. And so we think it's a winning battle. It's a battle we're winning. It's uphill, but we're climbing and we're pretty determined. And so I just wanted to invite everyone to follow us on Facebook, or you can visit our webpage at texasinvasives.org/professionals/Gulf Region and check out some additional information and resources on not just the Texas Gulf Region CWMA, but Brazilian pepper tree in general. And I just want to thank you very much for your time, and we'll take any questions.